Hi, welcome to Stories of Retirement, podcast about real stories from real people. Today, my guest is Russell, who lives now in Florida. Russell, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Martin.
Okay, Russell and I were talking a little bit before I hit the record button about music, and we're both musicians. And he's got a guitar from 1973, I believe you
I
said.
do. I do. I was
Wow.
16 years old when I bought that for $300. You couldn't touch that guitar today for less than 6,000.
Oh, I bet. I bet. I've got a guitar behind me right here I bought in 1981, and I like to joke with people that I've had it longer than my wife. And it's the only thing I've had for 43 years that I still use. So it's congratulations. That's nice to meet with a fellow guitarist. Well, Russ, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your career,
Sure.
your
So,
adult life.
sure. I went to college, upstate New York, where I studied business economics. I have 2 degrees in business economics, and I minored in music. And when I graduated college, I wanted to be a professional musician, but my father said that he was done supporting me and that I needed to get a
Mhm.
job in the business world. So I went into the fashion business, the apparel industry, specifically button manufacturing.
Wow.
And button manufacturing is a multi-billion dollar industry. And I worked for the largest manufacturer on the planet.
Wow. I,
And
I would I would have never thought. I mean, we never think about buttons and where they come from. So you were part of that process, huh?
every button on LL Bean and Under Armour, I'd say 90% of the buttons were from my company. And what I did, Martin, for them was I would work with designers within those companies, and they would choose buttons and put it on the garment. And then if the garment sold, I would get really big orders. So I
Right.
did that. I did that. That was my career basically in New York City, Midtown Manhattan.
Wow. That's actually very interesting. Very cool. So you stayed at the one company for your whole career?
I did. I did. However, the company's been in business 108 years. We also make every single button for the U.S. military. Why? We have a domestic factory in Putnam, Connecticut. And in order to be a military supplier, you need to be domestic.
Right.
We did that. And yeah, the company was great to me. But I'll talk a little bit about financially when you get to those questions.
Okay.
Let you.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll let you know I was in the military myself for 15 years, Army National Guard. So I've buttoned many of your buttons.
Absolutely.
That's wow. I would have never thought that would happen in this podcast today. I meet the man responsible for that. So very,
Will
very
I will
cool.
I will put a footnote in there that I always was a professional musician as a side hustle before
Right.
that term was even invented. I always was in bands, taught guitar lessons, and later on went solo. So that was always, in the backdrop.
Right.
Music.
Right. Well, I'm glad you got to do both. Me personally, I put my guitar aside when I got married, had my first kid at age 25, and I didn't touch it for 20 years. And I
Mm.
rejoined bands in my mid 40s. So I'm back with you, but you did it the whole time. That's awesome. So tell us, what are you glad you did during your working years to get ready for retirement?
So Martin, we we were moderate people. We didn't buy exorbitant items. We lived in a
Mhm.
home, same home for 30 years. We paid off the mortgage, so the mortgage was gone. We had some debt, absolutely, but we tried to limit expenditures and we maximized my wife's 401k. She
Mhm.
worked in a field where they were very generous. In my industry, very minimal 401k, no pension.
Right.
So we got ready by amassing uh, retirement income from her 401k and then a cash reserve and a
Okay.
paid off mortgage, a paid
Now,
off
when
mortgage.
when you and your wife got married, was it right at the very beginning? Was it easy to save money, like you said? You said sounds like you're very kind of aggressive or very committed to the savings. Was it always that way, or is it something you had to kind of evolve into?
So I used to call us nebbies, negative equity baby boomers, because we couldn't save any money and we were going into debt.
Okay.
And my wife went back to work, and then we were able to, she had again, the 401k, we were able to start saving money again. But I had a lot of ups and downs in the button business. There were many periods where business was really, really bad. I lost Nautica was a big client. I lost them, and my
Oh,
income was instantly cut in half. But we did try to save.
mhm.
Um, Not an easy task with two babies at home, right, Martin?
Right,
And living on Long Island, which was probably one of the most expensive places, other than maybe a handful of places in California to live.
right. Okay, so it sounds like once your wife started working, that made it easier to save money. Before that, you were, yeah, maybe going a little bit in the hole.
I was,
Okay,
and she was able to get very strong medical insurance and, of course, her salary. But as a single worker living in a place where even back in 1990, 91, my real estate taxes were like 10,000. That was a lot, and a
mm.
mortgage and babies and
Oh yeah,
cars. With just income adjusted for inflation wasn't a lot of money then. So I needed her to help, and she's my rock.
okay, awesome. So are there some things that you wish you had done better in getting ready for retirement?
In hindsight, I should probably have set up some kind of a pension fund, even
Hmm.
without the company.
Right?
But I was just trying to pay bills and then, you know, staring down the barrel of two kids going to out-of-state colleges.
Oh
You
wow.
got to live in the moment. Yeah, you want to just pay the bills. So, pensions and 401ks, that was something that those people worried about. I
Right,
wasn't worried about any of that. I was just trying to save money. But in hindsight, everyone has 20/20 hindsight. I wish I had done more of a pension fund because I have no pension now.
right. Okay. So you've been retired for how long?
So I left the button industry 2 years ago. However, as you may have seen, I do music and trivia now, which
Right?
has I've monetized it to the point where it brings enough income in that I don't even have to be on Social Security yet. I'm delaying that
Hmm.
possibly for another year for a myriad of reasons. So the music and the trivia have kind of panned out a little bit.
I think that's great. And one thing I recommend to a lot of people, especially if they're really busy in their career and we get a sense of our identity and purpose sometimes from our career or our job, to go cold turkey and just 100% don't work anymore. Retirement can be a rough transition for some people. So if you can monetize something you're passionate about, you have a talent for, the music, you mentioned that the trivia game show host, that's pretty cool.
And
And then,
so I
yeah,
was, I'm
see,
sorry.
it allows you to then delay your Social Security, which increases by 8% every year you delay it. So that can be a real financial boom to you to do that. That's awesome. Well, I encourage everyone, if you can, make some extra money part-time on your terms, by all means. But yeah, do something, earn some extra money, and delay dip into your nest egg and or Social Security. That can pay big dividends. So awesome that you do that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was performing a music show and a gentleman saw me and said, "You have a disarming outward personality. Would you like to try to
Right.
host trivia?" And the first night was a disaster because I never did it before. And they were yelling at me and screaming at me, but it was a big learning curve. I'm blessed to have that because, I did check out some big box stores as a side hustle,
Right.
but you don't really make enough money to unless you really work a lot of hours. And a lot of these places only want to give part-time now. They don't want to pay
Right.
medical.
Right.
So on part-time, the money was not really incentivizing me, but the music and the trivia, you can really do well with.
Good, good. I think if someone works at Walmart as a retiree or elderly person because they want to, I respect that, and that's great. They can be a door greeter, maybe they like it and the structure. But if you work there because you have to, that's kind of a little different story, right?
Right.
So I'm glad you're not, you don't have to work at a big box place. You're doing what you want
Exactly.
to do. When
And
you retired, oh, go ahead. When you retired,
I don't look good in an orange apron.
there you go. Yeah, yeah. When you retired, was it difficult at first to transition, or did you just bask in the freedom? And how was that the initial transition, like the first 2 or 3 months?
So I continue to have nightmares and dreams about my management yelling at me, "Where are you? Why
Right?
aren't you here?" you can still work, but we're not going to pay you. So emotionally, there definitely is baggage. It was kind of like major surgery, not seeing my check automatically deposited
Right.
anymore and realizing that, that part of it was over. Um, the free time issue, like I have friends who retire, oh, they're not busy. I'm busier now than ever. Every day
Right.
for me. I mean, I can, I have an unlimited amount of things to do. It's not enough time. I think I had more time when I was working, but the dreams, the nightmares about work to this day, I think that was it's very difficult. Why,
Wow.
what is that about? But as far as easing into retirement, falling into it, I've never been happier in my life.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you worked very hard. You made some sacrifices, to save some money in your wife's 401k and otherwise and get the mortgage paid for while putting kids through college. That's great. So it wasn't easy, and now you're reaping the rewards for it, which I think is wonderful. What has been maybe one or two surprising things for you in retirement, things that you didn't really expect?
Well, number one, I didn't know that my parents weren't financially stable. And
Wow.
so now I have to kind of help them out, which was unexpected. I thought that they would be fine. And I spend much more money than I thought I would, even here in South Florida. Insurance is high, there's an HOA payment,
Right.
grocery, groceries are high. So I am spending more money than I had originally planned on. That and that I think that I thought I'd have more free time.
Hmm.
I thought I'd have more free time. And it's not even just the music and the trivia, it's that I'm playing tennis, golf, and pickleball every day, which
Right.
is a big thing. But then it's lunchtime, and then my parents call, or there's something with the car. So I think for retirees, a lot of retirees think it's an abundance of free time, but not necessarily so.
Now, do you think though that this business you have is a different kind of busyness than your career because
It is.
you're choosing what to do?
It's different. I have an analogy of the motorboat versus the car. When you work for a company, which I did, it was a large company, you could coast in that car. The car keeps rolling, the paychecks come
Right.
in. But when you're on a motorboat and the hands off the throttle, the boat stops.
Ah, I
So
like that.
thanks. With this business, if I don't continually call venues, assisted livings, restaurants, I don't have anything on the calendar.
Okay.
And sometimes, Martin, you might feel, you're overwhelmed with, the house needs roof work or my parents need, and then all of a sudden that boat comes to a stop and the income comes to a stop. And as I
Right.
mentioned, I'm not on Social Security yet. We do have, some investments, but so yeah, that would be that.
Okay. I think I like your analogy there, but I think it also applies to life in general. In other words, you're the captain of that ship, and if you're not working out, right, if you're not making the social connections that are, I think, really critical to happiness and well-being, then that's on you. You've got to be in control. You can't just cruise through life. I
That's
know
right.
I read a book, I think it's called Healthier Next Year, about optimizing health after age 50. And they basically say that we've all got to work out every single day. They said 7 days a week, we'll give you one day off, the author. So 6 days a week, you've got to be active because when you stop moving, you start dying.
That's right.
Physically, I think also mentally and emotionally. Just life goes downhill. So I'm glad you're staying busy. It's on your terms. Do you really like the freedom to say yay or nay to things?
I do, Martin. When I worked in Manhattan for over 30 years. I had
Hmm.
no choice but to get on the Long Island Railroad every morning and go in, and then I had a schedule and a lot of micromanaging. Now,
Hmm.
if I don't want to play pickleball today, I could pick up the guitar and play it. If I don't want to do that show tomorrow night, I don't have to do it. I don't
Right,
feel any musts anymore. There's no musts. So retirement is very freeing.
right.
A lot of my friends can't retire, and it's not financial, it's psychological. They
Hmm.
are there. These guys are 68. 72, they're CPAs, attorneys, whatever they may be, and they feel that they are part of their job. I never felt that. I
Right.
am bustle and then I am a button salesman. So I think it was
Hmm.
easy for me to not do that anymore and just kind of transition out.
Yeah, I wonder if part of your, I guess your ability to transition maybe better than most or others is your musical side hustle. You always had. You always had something you were doing. And there are some people that their whole identity comes from their career. So
Yes.
whether, if you don't have outside hobbies or interests from your career and connections, social connections, whether it's pickleball or the golf course or the band or travel, whatever it is, then yeah, that transition becomes more difficult because you have
Mhm.
nothing else but the job. But if you even before you retire, start developing some of those interests, working out and making the connections, I think you're actually happier while you're working, and that transition to retirement is also a little smoother for you. That makes sense?
It does, because so I live in a retirement community. Everyone's retired yet. Well,
Hmm.
maybe 80%. And so one of my neighbors doesn't do anything. He doesn't go
Hmm.
to the gym, nothing. And I ask him, what do you do all day long? He's looking for another job. Why? Even though he's retired for 3 years, he has nothing to do.
Right,
So I think you have, you know, uh, kind of a second, like I'm blessed with the music.
right,
It can be a job at times. It's no fun walking into a restaurant looking for the owner, going back 3 times and being told, "Oh, we're booked up anyway." After you've been there the third time, they could have told you
right.
that. So even or anything like that. But I think you have to have some escape plan. If you
Hmm.
don't, I read it on the Facebook pages. So some people they just don't. They're bored. They're looking for another job already.
Right. And and boredom can be deadly. Boredom is detrimental to your health, physically, emotionally, and mentally. So you've got to
Absolutely.
stay sharp. In fact, that's one of the key points in my new book called The Happy Retirement Handbook. And by the time this goes on online, this interview, that will probably be available. So if you want to get it, go to storiesofretirement.com. Any listeners, and then you can get a free copy
I'm gonna
of the
go.
Happy Retirement Handbook. So, what advice, Russell, would you give to someone who's either recently retired or getting close to retirement? The kids are through college, it's them and their spouse, and it's on their mind. What would you tell them?
Like first get a financial checkup with a financial advisor. Like definitely do that. Know
Right.
where you stand. And I would say also try to have a network of interests that you have lined up. Start before retirement, get
Hmm.
that in place so that the day you retire, you're not in a pit having a pity party that you have nothing to do. You want to
Right.
have something to do. And then financially, you want to have, in my opinion, as little debt as possible. I
Right.
heard a guy get paid off houses, the new BMW. So I kind of believe in that and, minimize debt and try to figure out a monthly budget. But
Hmm.
definitely activities and I have never stopped working out in my life. And I am honestly in the best shape of my life, which is because the community I live in, we talk about that and stay mentally and excuse me, stay mentally fit and physically fit. That's what I
Right.
would recommend.
Okay.
Because
Awesome.
if you're not healthy, what you're not going to be active as you'd like to be.
Right. In this book I mentioned earlier, they say that if we are active and we're working out, including weights, he said we'll kind of maintain our health for 20 or 30 years of retirement. And then, yeah, we'll all die eventually, but we'll die, relatively quickly, rather than this slow, gradual slide. And
Mm.
I picture myself, I think about this sometimes because I'm weird, but my body is basically, when it is giving out, who knows when, and I'm laying in that bed for months, maybe a couple of years, and all I have are my memories. I want to have good memories. I want to be able, I want to have those experiences and have really no regrets.
Exactly.
So I think right now you're doing that. You're kind of living a living example of that, of living life to the fullest. I'm glad you're working out. You said your best health ever. You're happy, Yeah, freedom. You're a good example, I think, Russell, of how to do it right. So I'm really appreciate your time today. Thanks for doing this interview. And I think with that, we'll bring it to a close. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Martin, for having me.
I hope you enjoyed the interview and learned something that you can use in your own retirement. If you've been retired for more than 1 year and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast to share your story, please visit storiesofretirement.com. If you have a question about retirement, or maybe you're not even sure where to begin, I offer all of my listeners a 1-hour consultation at no charge. Whether by phone, video call, or right here in my Orem office, I'll do my best to answer your questions, to help you avoid costly mistakes, and then put you on the pathway to a successful retirement. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, at Achieve More Retirement, our goal is to help you live your life on purpose. Please share this video with others.